Hail, hail, and welcome to the Temporary Stand podcast number 29, and we are a Hail Hail media production. This week, myself, Richie and Marty have a wee look back at the gutting 2-1 defeat of Barcelona in Nou Camp. We look at the standout players and what will we learn from the heart-wrenching defeat. After that, we give Neil Lennon his rightful plaudits, before finishing off with a wee look at Victor Wanyama and his contract issues. So, now left for me to say, but see you on our side.
Well, welcome to Temporary Stand, episode 29. We're recording this on Friday night at 9:25, and I'm joined tonight by Scott.
How you doing, lads?
We've got Marty and a guest not hosting this week, Marty.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. I get the night off, sort of.
You're free to give your opinions, mate.
Indeed.
So it's 3 days after the Barca match, which we lost 2-1, obviously. So, lads, we'll start with Scott. You were at the game, same as myself, Scott. Have you recovered from the disappointment and the hangover?
I recovered from the disappointment, aye. Hangover is still kicking in now, so we'll see how we go on the weekend. You're disappointed. You're not as disappointed as you've been in the past with it, even though it was a gutter. But it's hard. I think it's hard for the Celtic players to be critical of that. I watched the game yesterday back, and they put some amount of pressure on you. I know everybody. We've watched Barcelona for years and we know this, but it's unbelievable pressure they put on the ball constantly. And if you aren't up to the same standard, then I mean, we'd find it struggle to fucking control the ball. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, devastated. They quickly get away because you ultimately never went in with any great expectations or real hopes, did we?
No, we never. But I mean, when it got to the 92nd, 93rd minute and we had the ball up their end in the corner, I thought at the time at the game that was it done.
Yeah, well, I think when they hit the post, didn't they? They hit the post. You thought you cracked it. You thought that was their last kind of major chance. I suppose we'll come on to it while we're talking just about individual performances and stuff like that. But you don't want to start pointing the fingers. I think I was saying today, I hope Neil Lennon goes away and looks at it and sticks a video up and says to the players, "This is what we could have done here. This is what." But I don't think we should really be doing that because, as I say, it's a tough shift. You know what I mean?
So, Marty, Scott's talking about Lennon watching the video and what we could have done. What do you think? What could we have done is stop, to get the draw or whatever?
Well, if you have a higher standard of player, you can keep the ball longer. And our players are a cut below Barcelona, and everyone knows this. It's no real surprise. But I'll tell you something that impressed me. For years and years, we've been saying when we go away on our travels and we can't defend and stuff. But that really was, like Scott, I watched it again yesterday, and to see that sort of defensive performance is actually really, really encouraging. And I was in the bar the other night with my wee mate, Mitzi, and we were watching it, and I was watching Barcelona play the ball along our backline. We were pushing them out, and they couldn't really do anything else. We were very compact. They were pressing the ball across our backline, and it was a wee bit like, when you get a comb and you run your thumb along a comb. That's how we were going. The players were moving in sync along with the ball, concentrating as best they could. It's the first time I can ever remember Celtic playing like that, where they'd actually been really, really disciplined. I suppose players like Ambrose are probably a cut above some of the defenders we've had in recent years. So in that sense, we're improving. So I'm not all. We were coming away at the start of the draw. We were coming away saying, like ITV were tweeting, "Bye-bye Celtic." And here we are sitting in the group with 4 points. We were literally a ball hair away from getting a point away from home and another couple of quid. It wasn't to be, but I just don't think it's the end of the world. We were writing off the Barcelona games anyway. Mm. And as far as I'm concerned, there was plenty. There really was plenty there to be encouraged about.
I think Big Sammy's injury. Well, at the game, Richie, I think you would have been the same as me. We felt that Samaras' injury caused a bit of problems for us. The outball wasn't the same there. But while I went and looked back, I actually realised James Forrest had a decent enough game. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't great, but he was taking the ball out of our defence, out of our half, and running at the fullbacks, thus creating a wee bit of space for us. I think the fact that Samaras and Scott Brown had to go off for the respect, one was a proper injury, and Brown, I'm led to believe he walked off and says, I'm fucked, you know what I mean? So I think if you didn't have to make the changes, then it comes down to exactly what Marty says. See your boy Miku and your boy Lassad, they look more handy at holding the ball up. And I know we would never have dropped Hooper after the way he's been performing and the way he performed that solo role in Spartak, but with hindsight, it never really worked for him on the night. I mean, he done a hell of a lot of tracking, but you just get a feeling that Miku would have been used to holding the ball up against, I say, a Barcelona defence. But ultimately, I agree with Marty 100%. You're walking away and you're gutted. I mean, you sit and think what could have been, but ultimately, did we deserve to win a game? Did we deserve to get a point? Really? You know what I mean?
Well, it depends on your point of view, I suppose. If you're Bernd Schuster, you don't think we should have, but us three think we deserved it, through our efforts and our defensive efforts. But I mean, I was too drunk really to register Samaras going off and what that meant. But I mean, you the two have watched the game back. I mean, what do you think about? You're saying Gary Hooper, didn't really up to snuff, and maybe Miku should have. Do you think he should have started or no?
Well, as I say, Richie, hindsight's a brilliant thing. God's sake, Miku might come on and been absolutely duff. You know what I mean? And the end could have really happened, but at that point, Gary Hooper ran himself in the deck, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working for him. The ball was bouncing off him. It was we had to make the change. It was either Victor Wanyama or Mulgrew had to come off, because neither one of them were having particularly great games in comparison to the rest of the squad. Gary Hooper was up front there, and as I say, he was busting his arse, but there was too many times it wasn't sticking for him, and it wasn't getting moved on straight away. He was getting caught in possession. I think, for what I've seen of Miku and Lassad, they look like guys who could control it. I mean, it's a different kettle of haddies when they're playing against Ross County and stuff like that, and some heifer is rattling them up the arse, and he knows that a referee's going to get it. But they kind of guys, I think, draw fouls, and that's what Big Samaras has got. Big Samaras draws fouls, whereas, again, how many times we spoke of Wee Forest? Wee Forest was on the pitch to draw fouls, to draw the ball away from the centre of the park, go down the channels and draw fouls. But I don't know, he kind of went down with the hands flailing again and never got a lot of fouls. So some were actually, I personally thought, were fouls. I think Lassad or Miku would have made a difference had we not had to make that Samaras substitution.
Right. And talk about James Forrest, Marty. What do you think about his efforts at the winner at the end? Do you think he was at fault?
I mean, he's not a defensive player. He's rarely in that position where he's having to cover at the back post. On the point about him in forward positions, he was denied a corner as far as I was concerned before. It was probably would have killed the 30 seconds that we needed to see out the game. But I wouldn't be too tough on the boy. It took me ages actually to realise that that Jordi Alba had actually scored with his foot. I was convinced that it had gone straight in. Yeah, and it was only one camera angle from behind the goal where you could actually just see that he had just touched it. At which point I turned to the mate and says, Foster should have come out and cleaned everybody in front of him's clap. So was it Forrest? Was it people stepping off above? Scott, you spoke to me the day about the other goal, about Iniesta's goal. Richie, are you gonna come to that, or should I leave it?
Oh, we can go into that. Yeah.
To finish off with the second goal, we should maybe have started with the first, Marty, but with the second goal though, you look at Ambrose and see as a keeper, you've got to trust that Ambrose is winning that header.
Well, that's it. Yes, and if he's not, then it's up to Foster to really clean house. No matter who's in front of him, he should have through the ball.
But again, though, you've got to rely on the rest of your teammates. Big Foster's been doing the solo stuff himself the whole game. As Richie rightly says, can you be goes back to my original point, can you be overcritical for James Forrest no fouling a guy when he thinks, just as you said, Marty, a million times Big Ambrose is winning that, or Fraser Foster's coming out and collecting it. So, that's wee winger standing there going, do I really need to track this guy? ultimately did, but you know what I mean. At the time, it's.
Well, I think that's what Lennon meant at the end when he was talking about concentration. You know, Forrest has got to assume that he's not going to win the ball. Personally, I think that he's going to have to track Alba. Alba's no assuming netting. He's assuming that the ball is going to get to the back post and he's going to put it in. So, from my point of view, Forrest should be assuming the same. But
yeah, and even to go back where you were discussing Hooper earlier on, I didn't come in, but I've heard a lot of criticism of Hooper's performance and stuff. And again, that game that we played, it isn't Hooper's game.
No.
Hooper's game is getting the ball fired ahead of him, and cutting through the fence. It's not holding up a ball for runners to come on. He's a small guy. He's probably walking out there saying, even though Barcelona's defence was depleted, he's looking at the likes of Mascherano going, these guys are no mugs. A couple of years ago I was playing with smaller teams in England. Those things are probably playing on his mind. And you could see him in the first half, he really was looking to Samaras to kind of, to form some sort of... yeah.
But you look at the goal against, just at the last weekend, and then you look at the goal against Spartak. Exactly what you said. Fling it right in front of him, he'll get the goal. So it's no real, but however the Spartak game, he did have a really, for the first time and maybe in his Celtic career, he led the line himself and was that solo forward, like as if I'd listened to Beyond the Waves the other week and Graham was saying a good point that he's kind of learned his game and realised that he can't just be this box striker. However, as you 100% say, it's not his natural game. So can you be overcritical of a guy who's been asked to change his game? I mean,
I genuinely don't think so, and also again, it's a testament to us because we're not not used to playing that game. None of us, when we ever played a match like that in Scotland, absolutely never, ever, even when the Huns were way better than us, you would never have saw a Celtic team play in that formation or format. So you write it off and you move on. As you say, Lennon really should be looking at the game. I'm picking out pointers, is there something we can learn from it? Not really I suppose not to browbeat the team, but just to say, listen, next time that happens to you, this is what you do. Bump, bump, bump. And hope that some members of the team assimilate that because that's how you improve. But I mean, Gary Hooper's 24. I think he's 24. He's either 24 or 25. I think he's 24. James Forrest is a baby. If we can keep this level of football, these guys have bright futures. They will learn. They're smart guys,
I mean, I was at the game cursing us when we couldn't keep the ball and stuff like that. The game went the way I thought it would, that we would be constantly under pressure. We'd keep winning the ball back and they'd keep winning it back and keep it for a lot longer than us. That's the way most Barca games went. So I wasn't really cussing. We used to cussing us for not being able to keep the ball because I wasn't. I was more interested in us being able to defend. I had no problem with the way we played.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that, Richie. However, it's the cold light of day. See, you know yourself, Marty. You've been in loads of games yourself. See, in that situation, you're not interested in how Celtic are keeping the ball. You're not interested. You're ultimately sitting there going, keep it out, right? And as you say, add in the alcohol thing, then your judgment, you're not being overcritical of anybody. You're just shouting, come on. In the cold light of the day, though, you go and sit and look at our game. Victor Wanyama, who I've no doubt will come down to later if it's on your agenda, Richie, but Victor Wanyama is a guy who's walked into Celtic this week and says that he doesn't think the deal's good enough. He's performed at a very high level in the Scottish League so far. I think he's performed at a good level in Europe for us, and his ball retention wasn't good enough for a team that hoped to counter-attack that. And that's not me being overcritical, that's me telling the truth. For a guy, his ball retention, and Charlie Mulgrew, he had a very similar game against Spartak, which he did the other night. But big Charlie Mulgrew, you're ultimately putting him in the team to whip in the free kicks, aren't you?
Yeah, you are indeed. And it's funny, we brushed over, we haven't even mentioned, I don't know how long we're into the podcast, maybe 10 minutes, and we haven't mentioned our goal. And you brought up earlier on about pushing your midfielders on to win your fouls. And that's exactly what happened with Scott Brown. And I'm not a Scott Brown fan, but fair play to him. He was working his trunks off. You could see it, and he was, pushing the wing as much as he could, and it paid off. And see the cross that Mulgrew put in, it was perfect. I don't know how many times I've watched it. It was the perfect cross. because it just caused chaos.
It's-
Mascherano didn't know what to do, and that's how he ended up giving away the goal. So I think there's a lot of positives to be taken from the game. The Huns are trying to run it down, and the Zombies are trying to run it down. The Scottish media are trying to run down the performance. For me, I wasn't a bit concerned. We came so close to getting the point away, and there was lots of positives on the pitch as far as I could see.
We seem to be getting a bit of luck, Marty, do you think, in this campaign? That's 2 deflected goals we've had. I know it was a good cross, but Spartak, we get a deflection, a lucky deflection, and then we've got a decent one against Barca as well. We do seem to be getting a bit of the rub. I mean, you can't say that the winner was unlucky. For us, it was just a good goal,
No, and it was the same with Iniesta's goal for them. It was hard fought for. The work, their passing's just amazing. So, in my opinion, you get the luck that you work for. The work that went into the goal that we got in Moscow was incredible. It was fantastic work from Izagiri, a lovely pass from Hooper to lay in Forrest, and fair play. He got a bit of fortune, happy days. But that cross from Mulgrew, to me, was the catalyst for the goal. It wasn't your average. It was perfect, from the distance out he was. I've watched it about 20 times, and the spin on the ball and everything. You could just, as a defender, you're looking at Samaras and he's over 6 foot, and you're thinking, what's this figure going to do, And they've already admitted that they've been watching our matches. The Moscow game made them sit up and take notice. So they knew Samaras was a threat. And I'm not his biggest fan either, but you could just see, with him and Brown coming off, it really did affect. I think it affected the team, and I actually feel that they did really well to hold it together for as long as they did.
Definitely. So, Scott, you've mentioned Wanyama and Mulgrew. Looking back at the game, you didn't think they had the greatest games. But pick out your star men then from our 11.
Well, you've got number one. You know what I mean, Big Fraser. These saves were world class. I mean, that's a Davy Marshall. I like Fraser Fawcett, and I think we've been pretty supportive of the guy through his whole time that we've been doing this podcast. But I don't think that guy will have a performance like that again. I mean, somebody says we're just instinct, and then you move straight into your two centre back pair. And Kelvin Wilson, the many times we write him off last year, right? You hear it on a million podcasts. People wanted him freed. That's it, plain and simple. Get him off the books. We're getting rid of everybody else. Let's get him off the books. And the big boys stood up in the new camp. I mean, his tackle on Messi was outstanding. Big Ambrose is looking like a superstar, isn't he, already? As you said, Marty, he looks that wee bit better than anything we've had in the past. His concentration looks that wee bit better.
And it's exactly what we were calling for. We're 29 podcasts in. I think the first 24 were begging for a centre half. He just knew how to play the game and could watch what was coming. So it's very, very encouraging that going back to when Lennon was appointed, I don't think any of us. Well, I can speak for myself. I wasn't enamoured by him coming in, but he's clearly learning. And he's looking for gaps that he needs to plug. So I really do think we can take a lot of heart from how things are going.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely, and I agree. But Kelvin Wilson, sticking with him for a second, Marty, I mean, this is the guy that we berated on the podcast, and he deserved it for his performances last season, the one against Kilmarnock in the League Cup final, those kind of performances. And now we've got a guy who's playing majestically in the new camp, sticking in tackles on Messi, when last season he could barely touch Dean Shields, for God's sake. So what's the difference?
Well, is it personal? Has he settled in a wee bit more in his personal life? He come up from England. Some players find it difficult to adjust. Is it professional in the sense that he's looking around him and seeing better players coming in around him? Does he need to up his game? Those sorts of things are probably playing on his mind. Is Lennon actually concentrating more and training him up better? As a defender, is Miyabi working with him? We always laugh about speculation. We really don't know, but we can see there's improvement happening on the pitch, and it's so ingratiating, when you see something working. And his tackle the other night in Messi was unbelievable. I put a post up on the huddle board about Messi. How he thinks that he's, you saw him moaning and whinging and stuff when it was a brilliant tackle, a cracking tackle. And it seems to me he gets a hell of a lot of leeway. You probably don't really notice it until you see your own team playing against him, but it seems as if he's immune to tackling. But Wilson stood up, went down, was clean on the ball, and he's tackling the best player in the world, as far as I'm concerned. So that gives me a lot of hope for his position in the team over the next maybe year or two. And hopefully he's in the same position where he's coming in at the mat and new deals because he's doing so good, because that's exactly what you want at your club. You want your players to be pushing themselves too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And basically we've forgotten about Thomas Rogner, who was our best centre back last season, because we've got these two playing well, and Mulgrew's had to move positions as well.
He was a great white hope, nobody big Ronnie, and then Ronnie's out the team and is it a simple fact to speculate? Is it just a simple fact that he's now playing with a partner again? He's playing with like somebody that's the trust is there for them. Do you know what I mean? Because Charles Mulgrew was Player of the Year last year, and he can't get in the team for either one of them. I mean, see that must make you feel 10 foot tall. Just knowing that your manager's going, if you come in and do the job, your manager's going to stick with you. And they're only the favourites that maybe guys like Martin O'Neill had. Do you know what I mean? That we all kind of criticised. But I'm going to come back to something we said earlier on. Well, we're talking about when have we ever seen Celtic perform like that? And I tell you what it reminded me. And it was only yesterday watching the game again. It was, do you ever remember we played Villarreal? And it was a Champions League one, Gordon Strachan, and we get beat 1-0. And the first half we defended like Trojans. Scott Brown's a stunning game, and we gave away one free kick, and that big centre boy rattled it in. And I've just clocked up there. They had 63% possession that game. Do you know what I mean? 63. You look at Barcelona, are a step up again. You've got to do what you've got to do, and when I come back to Charlie Mulgrew, see if Charlie Mulgrew and Victor Wanyama had that wee bit more composure, that wee bit of class, then I think your possession stats are going to come up to much about the same. I mean, there was like 10 minutes to go, and our possession stats were 24%. Right? And I know it's not a great amount, but considering I think we finished at 16%, it shows you how much we fell back because we weren't having that wee bit of class. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ball retention was a problem, Marty. What about Joe Ledley, Marty? What do you think about him in the midfield in terms of playing that role, keeping the ball, keeping it simple or whatever?
See, to be honest, I thought actually Joe Ledley had a pretty anonymous game. I thought the game kind of passed him by. So, someone else was talking, said that was balls, that he had a great game and stuff. I didn't really see it, and I suppose that really means he was a victim of the system, and that's fair enough. To me that's okay. And just to go back on what Scott was saying there about Wanyama and Mulgrew, if they're able to, I suppose, step their game up a wee bit. I think first and foremost that Lennon doesn't see Mulgrew as a defender. He sees him as a guy who can deliver the ball, as a left midfielder. He's pushed him inside into the midfield a couple of weeks ago. Charlie Mulgrew's over 6 foot. He's 6'2" or something. He's a big guy, but he probably is a cut below the European standard. Wanyama is young, so he can improve. He's a bit younger than Mulgrew, but again, the type of game that we play generally, not against a team like Barcelona, is to take the ball and move it. It isn't to keep the ball away from a player for a terribly long period of time because that player's better than you. It's much more about taking the ball and giving it to Forrest or giving it to McGeek or whoever's in front of him and standing back and admiring your work. And really, against a team like Barcelona, you can't do that. You've got to be on your toes constantly. So I actually think for us to be coming from an SPL background, I really do think it was an achievement to keep the score hard it was and to take them so close.
Mm-hmm. Aye, and I think Mulgrew had a bad start to the season as centre half, so I think Lennon's just trying to accommodate him somehow, but he knows that he's been a bit of a liability, to be honest.
I mean, when you think about it, his counterpart in Strachan's team would have been Paul Telfer, and Mulgrew's a better player than Telfer, so it's not just as bad that Lennon's trying to accommodate him, and with those, his free kicks are very, very good,
Oh yeah, we need to accommodate him for his qualities, dead balls. I agree, because we're pretty dangerous in Barca. I've conceded quite a few goals already this season from dead balls, so he has to play again at Celtic Park.
Yeah.
But, another guy we talked about, Scott, the last few weeks, who's improved a wee bit compared to we were dubious about him, is Lustig. What did you think of him on Tuesday night?
A smashing game again. Game again. I mean, he's a different player. I mean, you even look. I still think Aguirre had a decent game as well, but Aguirre sometimes turned too much into their players, like held the ball too long without it counting. I don't know if that's kind of because somebody in front of him wasn't showing as much. But Lustig looks comfortable as hell. He looks like a Swedish international player that we all remembered. Do you know what I mean? Before Dan Mastorovic turned up and ruined our imaginations of Swedish football players.
Scott, just before you go any further, did you see Lustig's goal against Germany?
Yes.
It was a peach of a goal.
He's
Sorry, go ahead.
Technically a decent player. He's technically a good player. Do you know what I mean? And it just shows you that we know absolutely hee-haw about football.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like it's taking guys a while to settle in at Celtic Park, you know. It just takes different guys, some guys slot right in, and then some guys take a while to adjust. It's taken Kelvin Wilson about 12 months to adjust, 18 months or whatever.
It looked awfully lackadaisical. Aye. You're right, Rich. I mean, see, to be perfectly honest, we can call ourselves mugs all we want, but these guys were rotten for Celtic. You know what I mean? And they deserve all the credit. If they deserve to get slagged, they deserve credit. So that's the way I always look at it. I mean, see what Marty says about Scott Brown. Big Fraser, who's been on the podcast a good few times, Big Fraser says to me, Scotty boy, you couldn't stick a guy. So what you think now? And I'm going, of course I'm going. The guy was brilliant. And I mean, with the way he came off with his face bright red, you know what I mean? He looks like me on Wednesday night.
And he's not that red, but I'll get your point. But we'll go into part 2 and we'll talk about just a couple of things that have happened after the game. Lennon's comments today regarding stuff that went on, and maybe Wanyama as well. Alright, welcome back to part 2. So we'll have a wee chat about the manager and his performance on Tuesday night and his comments today. Scott, I think he was a little disappointed that the media, I don't know if he was surprised, but he was disappointed that the media concentrate on negative aspects of the game on Tuesday night, especially comments by some German fella, Bernd Schuster. What did you think of generally Lennon on Tuesday night, his tactics, his subs or whatever, and do you think he's right to be annoyed at the fact that we nearly got a draw in Barcelona and all the press can do is concentrate on the negatives?
Is that though? I mean, how does it? I mean, I think Celtic fans have got to a point now where we're really uninterested in what they're saying. They've showed them their sell up over the whole Craig White, Chuck Green thing. They've showed them sell up continuously. I think Celtic fans as a whole have gave up the ghost. However, Neil Lennon's coming at it for a professional way, and he's got to be disappointed the way they're treating him. I went into work and I was talking to a couple of Kilmarnock fans, a Hearts fan, a Hibs fan, and they were going, I was gutted for these man. That was a Scottish, it was a Party Thistle fan. He was saying, it made me proud to be Scottish watching yous and yous are digging and all that, and I was like, you've taken it a bit too far, but I mean, what did it take? How come every other media? I was on a US website and they were going, Celtic have got so much credit from worldwide media because of their heart. Know what I mean? And that's what it is. They're not going to sit there and go, oh, this Celtic performance was fantastic, because we know it wasn't. But they showed so much heart, organisation, and the manager deserves so much credit for getting that out of that team. And for these BAMs, and they're BAMs, and it's just rubbish what they can't put aside their own fucking prejudices to fucking say to him, well done, Neil. I mean, that was excellent. I think we've said that a good few times. Neil Lennon's getting better, and rightly as Marty said earlier on, he's learning. I've said it a million times in the podcast. Worst thing about getting beat is no learning for getting beat, and he's learning. I mean, so a great thing somebody said to me in work today with Davey. He said to me, "Can you believe this is the same manager and stuff that get put out so meekly against Sion last year?" Do you know what I mean? Like, we got our arse felt because, you know what I mean? Maybe it's because, again, we got rid of Big Dan.
But it's one of the. It's actually one of the most. And I know Celtic have always suffered bad luck in Europe. The Sion result and the whole fiasco was, for me, one of the building blocks of what we're seeing now, because you could tell between the start of the UEFA Cup campaign last year and the end of it that he had learned. You could see that it was stupid mistakes. It was costing us games. It wasn't thought. It wasn't preparation. It was Cha doing something stupid there. Those sorts of things were what were costing us games. And he basically remedied that by getting rid of the players who were making those mistakes. We haven't seen that just as much. People like Big Dan making daft errors and things like that. So again, it's credit on two fronts. He's learning from what he's seeing on the pitch, and he's also looking at a squad and who's there and saying, right, I need you, and I don't need you. You're going to cost me in the long run. But also that Neil Lennon's a bright guy, right? I've met him, and he's a smart fella. He's not, the media stereotype that the Scottish media have created for him isn't him, and that's another thing that sticks in the craw of people that hate him. They are used to seeing, like, our good friend from Dublin, Ice, was talking the other day, and he hadn't heard the after-match interviews. He had only read a piece on the RT website which mentioned that Lennon was angry. Now, I listened to the after-match interview, and so did Martin D, who's also on the temporary stand, and Lennon had been pushed by Tom English from the Scotsman, and he had said, "Oh, Neil, you said there that you're angry about the team and you're angry about the result and you're angry about this." And I had listened to the whole interview before, and I couldn't remember Lennon saying the word anger once. And Lennon was very pleasant about it, and he says, "Well, I mean angry by da 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 da." Next thing this whole thing's created, Lennon's angry. He certainly didn't sound angry. He sounded so calm after the game. He was giving great credit to Barcelona and all the rest of it, and great credit to his own team. And the next day, the BBC website had this picture of him snarling and growling, on their homepage. So that's the reason they hate him, because he's not standing up to their stereotype. He's a smart guy who's making good decisions and pushing his team forward, and he's learning and he's thinking, and he's bringing in better players than he has, and it really pisses them off.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, they kind of put Lennon in a box the way they can put McCoist in a box, or they could put Walter Smith in a box. I mean, Walter Smith played Barcelona in the Champions League. He played one striker, and he played a load of hackers in the middle. We went to the Nou Camp and played 3 or 4 attacking players. We didn't get as forward as often as you'd like, but it's impossible against Barcelona. I'd say that was the average amount of possession that most teams will go to the Nou Camp, maybe apart from Real Madrid and the top Champions League teams. I mean, we didn't do that much different to anybody else, but I mean, Len and the plaudits of Bernd Schuster make a big deal of his comments. I mean, that guy's a bit mad, so he's going to say mad stuff, but they make him out to be, definitely we played negative football. We went there, it was anti-football. I mean, Walter Smith never got accused of that via the media when they went on the UEFA Cup run or anything like that. But I mean, Lennon, it seems they'll pick anything negative about a great performance in terms of, especially in a Scottish game that's supposedly in crisis. They still keep bumming it. They won't bum it up whatsoever. They're just going to keep running it down.
No, and just to pick you up on that as well. Bernd Schuster said what he said, right? Fair enough. But Sid Lowe from The Guardian actually came on to Twitter and said, through what I really admired about Celtic was that through it all, they never resulted to hacking, they never resulted to fouling, they didn't try and put Messi out of the game, unlike other teams who have visited the Nou Camp. So, again, Lennon isn't living up to the stereotype. He's not sending his men out as hatchet men. But if he was this ogre, if he was this crazy angry guy, then that's the sort of team that he would be trying to produce. Actually, I was really surprised there, Richie, just as you were saying. There was I typed in Bernd Schuster into Google earlier on to see exactly what he had said. The first article that came up was from Keith Jackson. I didn't read the article, I wouldn't click on the link, but there's, in Google you can see the first line or first 2 lines of the story, and it was something like the clues in his name: Bernd should shush, and apparently it was actually an article saying the Schuster was out of order. If Lennon's winning around people like Keith Jackson, what does that say about what's going on over there? He can't be ignored. And I'm hoping he goes on to be as successful as all the other Celtic managers in the past, or better than most of the Celtic managers in the past. I really do wish him well. He's a nice guy and he's a smart guy and good luck to him.
Exactly. But Scott, I mean, talk a wee bit about, like, he gets as a one-dimensional Starling character, but it's obvious that he's got a lot of tactical know-how. It's obviously he does a lot of homework, he studies a lot. He's obviously studied Barcelona very closely. and we went on tactics on Tuesday night that very nearly worked. He obviously does his homework and knows a lot about the game, but obviously we don't always hear that part of his personality.
Aye, definitely. I mean, what Neil Lennon does, I don't know. It goes back to what we've said a million times. You'll speculate about stuff, but we went out there and we knew we had to keep it tight, and we kept it tight for the majority of the game. We never did speak about that Iniesta goal. I mean, see that goal, sticking our 10 defenders in, you're still no saving that. That was outstanding. I think that's the best team goal I've ever seen against my club ever. Honestly, because it was 100 mile an hour, boom, 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 control, touch, don't go. Right? You take that one, didn't you? You walk away and go, well done. But we went there, and fair dues, we got a wee bit of luck, but that's what happens. I mean, you've got to say we were unlucky later on in the game when Ambrose took the ball just after Big Victor's head. That was unlucky. You know what I mean? They maybe got a wee bit lucky that I think we hit a shot and the boys came off his. Fair dues. You're on the ball though. Neil Lennon has learned, again, going back to what Marty says, we went to see on and we get let down, and Neil Lennon's got to take that credit for no being what's the word, quick off the handle with regards guys who don't date for him instantly. I mean, he brought Lust again and he brought Wilson in, and it would really have been easy for, especially with all his bums on tapping the stands and hail media saying, oh, this guy's not good enough, this guy's not good enough. Neil Lennon saw something in these guys, and you can't, man, I tell you, see if you watch again back, Richie, I don't know if you will, Marty, you've seen it, Neil Lennon's face when we scored.
Fantastic. I was going to raise it earlier on and I forgot.
When it was, I've got to admit, I was a wee bit emotional yesterday, you know. He was like
a baby, a child on Christmas morning.
He was, aye. And how much did you feel sorry for him when that fucking second goal went in?
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end when he was sort of standing at the end with his hands on his hips or his arms folded, and you know, just after the goal was done, and you could see it was like the wind coming out of his balloon. But when you see the goal get in from us, and you see him punch in the air like that, you can't but like him. You know, you can't but know he's one of us.
Definitely, I came home for the airport and I watched the goal and then I deleted it, so I'll not be watching it again. I don't think I could watch that Jordi Alba goal again, but I mean, you're right, celebration is brilliant.
Did you hear the thing on Twitter that was going around, the joke? You'd rather get a goal scored against you by Jordi Alba than seeing your team score on BBC Alba?
I saw that one. I was trying to figure out who started it, because then you get a load of guys coming on just copying and pasting and making it like it was their joke.
It was me, mate. I started.
Well done, Scott.
That was a test. It was me that done it. We were talking about Scott. Sorry, Martin, you go.
No, go ahead.
No. We were talking about Scott, Victor Wanyama earlier on, and we bum him up quite a lot in this podcast, but we also point out his shortcomings, that he's passing isn't always the best, and his first touch could be better. But today, obviously, his agent said that Celtic have offered him a contract extension. His contract's up until 2015, but we've offered him an improved deal with an extra year, and his agent said he's knocked it back. What do you think is going to be happening with Big Victor? Do you think we'll see him until the end of the season? Do you think we'll be going in January or what?
Well, as you rightly say, we spoke about it earlier on. The number one question, I mean, forget speaking to his agent. Neil Lennon walk up to him and say, right, honestly, do you want to go? Because if the boy says, I want to go, then it's then a case of heading up and seeing Mr. Law and saying, right, the boy wants to go, it's up to you to get top dollar for the boy. I like him a hell of a lot. I like his attitude. He's 21, 22, he's built, he's massive, and he has got a football brain. I think when we first got him, Neil Lennon goes, he actually is shooting and training, it's awful. And now the boy's pinging him in up for all sorts. He's obviously confident now, maybe a wee bit too confident. I remember Kyle going in to see Mr. Law last year, and he kind of upset a few years the way he acted when he never got what he wanted. The fact that Wanyama's come out publicly, I find he seems to be doing a hell of a lot of talking through the agent. Where the agent's out of order and just bumming up himself, I don't know, but keep it in house. I mean, Neil Lennon's done well by you. I don't think he really deserves. I mean, Neil Lennon seems to have built this good young squad and the great thing about Twitter these days, they actually seem to go in with each other, because I mean they're all going in each other's houses for something to eat, and they're all going to Nando's together and whatever. Yeah, a wee bit of respect, Victor. I mean, I don't think it's the end. I don't think it's the end for him. I personally think we're looking to get another year out of Victor Wanyama.
Well, can I just say, I think he's an idiot.
Yeah,
I think he's an absolute idiot, and here's why. Celtic will sell him anyway. If Man United come in and offer Celtic whatever, 10, 15, 20 million, Liverpool come in and they'll sell him no problem. So he'll get his move if he wants. He's basically just knocked back money, and put on his tail. An extra year on his deal won't make any difference to him. He could have signed that deal today, made himself 6 months money till the end of the season, or whatever, however many months is left in the season, and left in the summertime with more money in his pocket.
Oh, yeah.
He's a fool. And I'll tell you something, it's pretty similar to what happened to Kyle and Izagiri. Them two had a purple patch for a couple of months, and everybody thought they were amazing. And I remember watching Kyle sitting on a beach back in Israel or wherever he lives, and this guy interviewing him about his move to Man United. Seriously, like this was 2 seasons ago. He was sitting telling, Man United are in for me. And he's still here, because he didn't perform to his abilities. So to me, Wanyama's a total fool, and I don't think he's going to leave. And as Richie said, he's tied up to 2015. Celtic, he's on not inconsiderate wages, but he's on pretty small wages in terms of the rest of the squad. And Levens basically came and offered him a pay raise. Martin O'Neill used to do it all the time. He did it with Stan Petrov. He walked into Petrov one day and said, "You're getting a raise." So to me, he's foolish, and as agent, he should be having a word with his agent.
Yeah, I'd agree that to an extent, but you've got to bear in mind that he isn't one of us. As much as he's sitting there with number 67 on his back and playing it up and stuff like that, Victor Wanyama is ultimately looking after for himself, isn't he? He's walked in there, he remembers, I think he did it last year, Kyle doing it last year, and ultimately getting a wage rise. And I think the boy's chancing his arm. This is what agents do. Agents start at a top level, and you start at the bottom level, and you try and meet in the middle somewhere that suits both parties. I mean, I've no doubt that the thing that just kind of gets me is the fact he's took it public. This could be done behind doors, not I mean, and I agree with you to an extent.
But in fairness to Wanyama, and I'm not trying to be fair to him, to be honest, because I think he's a dick, but it was actually Lennon who made it public. Lennon said, "I'm going to give this guy a new contract," which means that then everybody's on the hunt, and the press are ringing his agents to find out, did he get his contract? So if he's being asked, what do you do? Do you say, well, no, he hasn't got his contract, which isn't true? So then the journalists will know from their contacts within the club that he was offered something's wrong. That something's amiss, that the two stories aren't matching up. So Lennon put it out there that Wanyama was getting a contract. Wanyama's now knocked it back, and his agent says, there's no other offers. And the ball's in Celtic's court. And he's damn right, the ball is in Celtic's court, because he's under contract for another 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Aye.
Exactly, but I think the guy's being badly advised. You don't see Gary Hooper, who's been more successful at Celtic than Victor Wanyama has so far. You don't see his agent coming out. I think we've got a problem agent here. And Victor's a young guy, and he's heat turned by the way. He will play in a bigger league than the SPL. He is too good for the SPL, but I mean, hopefully keep him for another year. But it seems we've got I don't know what the name of this agent or who else he represents, if he's got any other players at Celtic, but it seems he's mostly the problem. Although Victor could always tell him to shut it or sack him if he wasn't happy with his performance or the way he was representing him, I suppose, couldn't he?
Yeah.
No, yeah. But yeah, and I agree. I think the agent is being he's playing silly buggers here. Really is.
You throwing your hat in the ring, mate?
No, but I know a man who would. Isn't that right, Agent Jerry?
He wishes.
On the way back for the game, we had a stopover in Memmingen in Munich, or just outside Munich. I think it's just outside Munich. But anyway, we met 8 or 9 Schalke fans who were going to their Arsenal game, and one of the fellas, he was just flinging out names for guys who play with Celtic, as you do you know what I mean? I was sitting, Hunter Laird, he's flinging Samaras back to me, and he was saying, how good are your team? And I'm going, well, we're not a great standard and stuff, we're playing within our means, But each of us went, Victor Wanyama, that's the boy, that boy's got to be a star. And they're kind of going, is that right? And I'm going, aye, you'll see him in a top league and stuff. And he's going, oh, we'll look out for him. But there you go, they might sign him.
I think I said in the podcast months ago that Big Vic could play for Inter, because after I don't know why we're talking about Inter. Oh, his brother. He definitely could. He's at a level. He just needs to brush up on a couple of things, and he's got plenty of time on his side. So
exactly. And that's the whole point, Richie. The whole point is that if a club comes in for him and hits the right, like you had basically Lennon pricing him out of a move. You know, if you're Lennon come out today at the press conference and says, he's a £25 million player, right? We all know he's not. He's a good player, but he's not a £25 million player. And if you're Victor Wanyama and you're sort of holding any thoughts of getting your move quickly, that stops it dead. You know, nobody's going to come in with a £25 million bid for him. So, well, Victor, what are you going to do now? You know, what's your next move? You've knocked back a pay raise here, but if somebody does come in for you, we're going to let you go, but it'll be at our own price. You know, to me, as you say, Richie, really badly advised and a very silly move.
And the only thing I noticed from our end, Scott, was Celtic fans apparently gave him a bit of abuse on Twitter, which you don't want to see either, don't you know?
No. To come back to what you're saying, his agent is a guy called Rob Moore, and he's a South African fella, and his Wikipedia calls him, Moore is among the most influential figures in South African football, with clients including Benny McCarthy and Stephen Pienaar. So he's obviously done deals in the past. I mean, if you look how ridiculous Stephen Pienaar's move to Tottenham was, that was just
Absolutely.
about money, do you know what I mean?
And Ben McCarthy was always known as being difficult.
Do you remember
don't know how much of that was...
Benny McCarthy's career... Yeah, Benny McCarthy's career was over 28. Do you remember playing against us when he was at Celta Vigo?
Yep.
You know, and you thought from there, you know, that he could reach for the stars.
And before that game, he was saying he'd love to go to Celtic or Rangers.
Yeah. You know, crazy.
Well, Rob Moore obviously told me to say that. It sounds like the kind of thing you'd say. But all right, well, Scott, just finish up in Barcelona. I remember you were saying no long ago that you were worried that the Huns and their antics there might have ruined it for us, and that we were going to get stuck into a pen and be stuck in a fan zone or something. But how did you find the trip?
Well, I kept myself, as you know, I kept myself away from any fan zone, but I can't even remember if it was a fan zone. Every photo I've seen, people were back in the square. I never had any problem with the people. Once again, the people, perfect. You know what I mean? Just, you had the odd wee guys outside the stadium trying to sell you 6 cans for €25 and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But God loves a trier. But
picked the wrong man there.
You bought 12, didn't you?
I bought 12. Right. I'm still paying it off. But with regards the people in the stadium, the coppers, no problems at all, and the Celtic fans can be very proud of themselves again. I know some people get upset when you get clapped off and all that. Somebody think I'm sound doesn't upset me, I must admit.
There was a brilliant video. I know you guys aren't long back. I don't know if you saw the video. There was a video taken by a Barcelonan in the middle of a road somewhere. I haven't been to Barcelona, so I don't know if it was Plata Catalunya or not. But the Celtic fans had split across this main road, and they were doing the Glasgow's green and white across the road, and there was like dozens of locals just going, what's going on?
I think we did that at one point.
It looked fantastic. Maybe I'm sure you guys might have been there, but it was amazing to see. There was about 1,000 Celtic fans on one side of the road and about 1,000 on the other side of the road, and it just looked fantastic.
You're not going to get any problems after the bar owners and stuff like that, because these guys are lapping up. I mean, Richie, we went down to go to a booze at the Shamrock Bar, which I don't think had any windies, Richie, did it? No. And it was shut before the game. So we all just piled into the nearest Spanish boozer to it. And the wee guy had the time of his life, didn't he? He was coming out, patting his own in the back and all that. He's like, I think he's heading to Glasgow for his holidays this year.
Because we came the day of the game and we went into that bar and they had Ed Oggett live at the Brazen Heat. Was that all the bars you walk into Barca and you walk into the guy who plays rebel songs? But, I think we spent the whole day in that one.
Yep.
You couldn't beat it. I mean, what more do you want? The sun was going down and we met those council workers. I stuck the photo on Twitter. I got quite a few retweets of the council workers who had F the Rangers scarf, but they had that themselves.
That's
didn't
right.
They?
Yep.
They must have got it for when the Huns were there, and they probably had to clean up after them.
Aye.
Council workers, so
Made
they
all themselves,
the only thing I noticed was the only thing when it was Celtic fans was we were kept in behind after the game. We were kept in for about 45 minutes, and we were all leaving. And the guys who were last out all started firing baguettes down on all the Celtic fans. There was about 25 baguettes, and I was killing myself laughing. But there was some bit of not a ruck, but a wee bit of a scuffle started. But that was the one bit of trouble I saw, and it wasn't even was handbags, it was breadsticks. But apart from that, aye, it was a great trip. It was a great city. Aye. Celtic fans were brilliant. I didn't see any problems apart from that, and people were pissed off being kept in for 50 minutes. I don't know what the point that was.
No.
So there was going to be no chance of trouble.
Considering you've been mingling with them all the way up to the game,
all day.
Keep in, you know what I mean? But that's what the day. That's what everywhere does, doesn't it?
But what I thought was interesting was I was this night, came up home from the bar and I stuck the radio on to hear the end of Sports Sound, and it was strange because you were expecting to hear whatever silence or the Celtic fans singing, but they were actually playing Celtic songs over the tunnel.
That's right.
I thought it was really strange.
Showed a load of highlights for Celtic games in Europe at half time and stuff like that. So they did. But,
good treatment, you know.
That's it. Anyway, lads, we might call it an end at that. We've got again the one against Kelly. Any predictions or anything you want to add about that?
3-0 to Celtic.
Not really a prediction, but I'm sort of hoping that the team's shaking up a wee bit. There's other players there that I'd like to see. I'd like to see Miku in from the start. I think Kilmarnock are a team that you could get good value out of. I think he needs a goal.
We're looking for who for the start?
Miku,
right.
Miku, and it's a real shame too. With another game sort of quick on the heels on Tuesday night against St Johnstone in the Nipple Cup, and I'm really disappointed Dylan McGeoch is injured again, because he's another one I keep looking out for to see if he's going to get a chance. And there was a perfect chance coming off the new camp game and then getting a CIS Cup game. It's annoying that he's being held back by injuries, because I think he's an exciting player.
Aye, I think you're right, but how long's he out for?
I think Lennon says today he'll be back shortly, and I think as well he said Samaras' injury isn't as bad as expected either. He'll be back within about 10 days.
Very good, very good. So we'll call it a day there. Thanks for coming on tonight, Scotty. I know you were busy on a Friday night. Usually get better things today, but that 4-day hangover just kept you in that window where we could have you on.
It's a killer. Well, thanks for having me, Richie kid.
No bother, mate. Thanks for it. And Marty?
Sound, I had nothing better to do at all.
Marty, as a pundit, you're a good host. I'll tell you that.
Oh, thanks very much. I don't know. Is that a compliment or I'll take it as a compliment. I'll take it as a compliment. Not a problem.
All right. Thanks very much, lads. Cheers.
Cheers. See you. Bye.
That's us for another week. I hope you enjoyed this edition and keep on listening to all the Hail Hail Media podcasts. Nothing left to do but good night, God bless, and Hail Hail.